Neil, what is the latest on Romney's Packers-Patriots dilemma?
He's expected at Lambeau Field around noon, in which case he'll endorse the Packers. Not really.
So, wearing a Brett Favre jersey.
Right.
That'd be bad.
I don't know if that would work so well. But anyway, Neil, let's go into this. So Wisconsin is really the main contest of today. Is there any chance Rick Santorum could pull off an upset here?
You know, there's a chance. The latest polls had Romney up 7 or 8 points. I mean, that's a pretty good lead. And, you know, my discussions with his camp is that they're really optimistic. He himself over the weekend predicted that he would win in Wisconsin. But, you know, things can swing, and maybe some of his supporters already think it's in the bag and they stay home, and who knows. The expectation is that Romney will win Wisconsin and that Santorum will win maybe a couple of congressional districts, which would give him, you know, 6 delegates or so, but that overall, when we come out of today, Romney probably will pick up at least 80 more delegates, and Santorum maybe a dozen or so at most.
And so, Neil, now Wisconsin is not a winner-take-all state, right? They allocate those based on how you perform on a local level?
Well, all of the states today, including D.C., could be. D.C. is an outright winner-take-all. Santorum isn't even on the ballot here. Right there, Romney is basically certain to get 19 delegates. Maryland, which has 43 delegates, is the same as Wisconsin in that you take a whole bunch of delegates by winning the state, and if you then win all 8 congressional districts, you win all those delegates as well. So Romney, who is way up in the polls in Maryland, is very likely to win all the delegates in Maryland. And if he does really well in Wisconsin, that could turn out that way for him there too, though that's a little less likely.
So does this solve anything today? I mean, are we going to, you know, tomorrow morning wake up to headlines saying that somebody has dropped out of the race? And if so, who'd be likely?
You won't. I mean, there's real stubbornness. I mean, even, you know, Newt Gingrich, who's way lagging in the delegate count, says he's sticking it out all the way to Tampa. I don't know on what money he's going to be doing that or what degree of seriousness and how much he's actually going to be campaigning. Similar thing with Ron Paul. He's doing like one event a week and just sort of barely staying in, but he's technically still in. Santorum, you know, he's now up a little bit in a recent poll that just came out in Pennsylvania. After today, we'll be looking towards, I think there are 8 states that vote on April 24th, so we have a 3-week lag. What the big state and the one that everybody will be focusing on is going to be the state of Pennsylvania. But, you know, there are other states like New York and whatnot on that same day that Romney is almost certain to win. So I still don't see, even if Santorum were to get a win out of Pennsylvania, how that exactly reestablishes his candidacy.
And Neil, as we had on the screen a little bit before, the delegate counts, and even though Romney is still less than or just about only halfway to what he needs, it sort of seems that just numerically now, there's no chance for the others to catch up to him.
I think that's fair. Really, the only suspense that's in this thing at all, and there's not much of it, is the idea that Romney just wouldn't get to the finish line with the delegates that he needs. And that's the only thing that's keeping Newt Gingrich in this race, for instance, is the idea that this would then go to the convention and it would all be hashed out there. But at the moment, it's hard to predict, but it looks like Romney will clear that bar probably when California votes early in June. Still, you know, that means we've got a long ways to go. And Santorum said over the weekend that he's not going to drop out until Romney reaches that magical number.
All right, Neil, one thing in this, though, as you had a story today talking about the fundraising efforts, Mitt Romney and the GOP now are trying to sort of join forces and I guess coalesce around his one candidacy for fundraising purposes. How will that work, and does that just bleed the others of any monetary oxygen their campaigns would need?
Well, if anything, it's a sign of, you know, maturity in the Romney campaign that they're now ready to toggle over as of tomorrow, we're told, to raising general election funds in their own right, but also in alliance with the Republican National Committee, where they would have big events and people would show up and could write a single check for up to $75,000, part of which would go to the RNC, part of which would go to the Romney campaign, and a lot of which would go to the important state Republican parties like Florida, Virginia, Ohio, etc. You know, the funny thing is the RNC offered the same thing to the other candidates, and when I talked to their campaigns, I wasn't even clear if they knew quite what they were talking about. You know, Santorum's spokesman was saying, well, we're ready to fundraise whenever they want with the RNC, but it's a much more formal, more complicated thing than just that. And this is something that the Romney campaign has worked on for a while, doing all the lawyering and that, and it's a pretty complicated thing. And it will begin to bleed the field a bit, and it also is indicative of the fact that for Romney, he's already tapped out a lot of his donors when it comes to giving the maximum for the primary, and they now need to move on to going back to those people and getting general election money from them.